We would shove the cart against the door and somebody at the other side of the door would push it, see if it was believable. So you took like a very convenient thing and tried to put in all these otherworldly pieces like a dinosaur rampage in it. Hello everyone, I'm James Clyne. I'm excited to take you behind the scenes of Jurassic World Rebirth. As a designer, you want to push things forward and play in new sandboxes, but at the same time, you want to stay in this kind of revered place of Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. So it's a bit of a razor's edge of trying to stay 1 foot kind of where we've been and 1 foot where we actually want to go. We're in Thailand now. We're trying a little something different and embracing the look of Thailand and everything that Thailand has to offer. Using that as a kind of a springboard for our aesthetic, it was really easy to be inspired by the world and see these wonderful oceans and beaches and rivers and jungles and just get immersed into that world. And once we were in there, it was like, okay, this is super inspiring. How do we now fold in the world of all our Jurassic Park iconic imagery and place it into this new world? We had several opportunities to, from a design standpoint, to say we're now on a new island, a new research facility. And one of the things I took away from it was, well, nobody has seen this island. Nobody has seen this technology before. In a way, is it a little bit like Lockheed Martin or like some of these secret ops facilities that you don't get to see that technology 20 years after they've developed it, and it still seems very kind of futuristic and kind of pushed forward. So things like the lab, we really wanted to push an InGen lab that you've never seen before and a technology that has been pushed into a new place. And a lot of that honestly was just in conversations with Gareth Edwards and myself, where Gareth wanted to take his movie. And I think every corner he wanted to take a new path and see how far we can push it. And then as we got further and further into it, we just reel it back and bring into that kind of classic Jurassic Park look. I think there's a level of Jurassic Park that is science fiction, that when I was first introduced to Jurassic Park, the labs, the facilities that were kind of behind the scenes, I always felt like the technology was a little pushed. You know, the fact that they mentioned silicon graphics as an operating system was like, ooh, that's a new and exciting computer platform that not a lot of people know about, but they're using it on that island. So knowing that they wanted to push that aesthetic, we wanted to take that and we wanted to push it even further. The facility had a very high-tech look to it, but it was concrete, kind of slab bunker-like looks. And if you notice back in the original Jurassic Park, all the kind of the entrances into the guts of the whole park had these kind of slanted concrete slabs. The Essex, the boat itself, you get this wonderful introduction to the boat and Kincaid the captain. And not only do you get to see all the outside, you get to see the inside. So we had actually purchased the pre-existing boat and retrofitted that boat to fit the aesthetic that we wanted to play with. We shot a lot of what you see in the film is open water in Malta with a real boat driving around a real ocean with a crew that's shooting on a real moving boat. We did some work on a gimbal in Malta, which was in a tank. Neil Corbold and his SFX team would throw water onto the bow. The whole boat, because it was on this massive gimbal, was able to rock back and forth. If it was hit by a Mosasaur, it would actually feel like you were hit by a Mosasaur. Those two setups, even though one was on land and it was very kind of fake, we had the ocean work blended in perfectly with what we were shooting on land. I feel like it's my job to make things almost invisible. The moment the audience questions it, that kind of magic trick is revealed to everybody, and then they start, breaking it apart. But our job is to make everything feel seamless into the world, and that includes visual effects, that includes our set builds. So we work closely with visual effects and David Vickery to kind of come up with a plan of, hey, if we built 50-foot tall cliffside, and we actually rappelled down those cliff sides, that we can match it into a real location that they would then shoot plates later. So the look and feel, the color and the texture of our builds had to equally map into and work with what they were scouting for their plates. For like things like the facility, even though that was shot on a back lot, we wanted it to blend into real locations that we had scouted in Thailand. So that facility will actually fit into a real location that we've already scouted and used, rather than try to build it from nothing.
There's so much detail in the real world, it's almost impossible to just try and make something up that looks believable and realistic. So Gareth could say to me, the rapids, it should be this sort of really luscious, overgrown, verdant, jungle type environment. And you could Google that description and get a million different versions of that environment. So we'd always go and do research and find images. And we found lots of rapid rivers flowing in northern parts of Thailand. So we knew that the foliage was appropriate for the environments that we'd been filming in. And we referenced those specifically when we built the river. For the sequence with the Quetzalcoatlus on the cliffs, we actually went to a waterfall called Jog Falls in northern India, and we shot thousands of hours of plate photography. And then we constructed that environment in 3D, duplicated the waterfall. So it was like a jigsaw piece of waterfalls that we then recreated and jigsawed back together to create the environment for the Quetzalcoatlus sequence.
One example is our InGen convenience store at the end, and our Mutodons break in there. So when building that set, we had to have a kind of an understanding of what the width and the height of a Mutodon is. So our each aisle would kind of fit a Mutodon, and we didn't really know what a Mutodon size was, and that's why we'd have to have these like in-depth conversations of like, how tall is it? How wide is it? If it comes out through a ceiling, how big is that ceiling panel that it has to come out of? So there are a lot of like entry and exit points that these dinosaurs had to come into the convenience store. I remember we were playing around with an idea where the family barricades the door, and we were suggesting, well, what if it's just a mop that you kind of put through the door? And Gareth was like, yeah, I think that could work, but our Mutodon is going to be so big and strong that it would just break that mop in two. So we had to look around the convenience store and go, oh, well, there's like a cart that carries milk to all the refrigerators. We would shove the cart against the door, and somebody at the other side of the door would push it, see if it was believable. So you took like a very convenient thing and tried to put in all these otherworldly pieces like a dinosaur rampage in it. Supervising art director Andrew Bennett and I would have conversations with the cinematographer, John, about which direction would that set be built. So John Matheson would go, I'd love that set to be point south, because the sun is going to set in that southerly direction. So we would all sit around the big model and go, okay, rotate that south. What does that mean to point it that direction? And we'd literally build our set based on the sun's direction. When we were on location, we didn't have as much of that luxury. We'd have to kind of look and scout it for where the sun, and we have all these kind of sun trackers. We know exactly where the sun is arcing and what time of day, what time of year. So we use these sun trackers, which are just apps on an iPhone, to understand where to place actors, where to place set pieces. I do love the temple set that we did, the temple interior, where they extract the fluid from the egg, only because I felt like it was my opportunity to do Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was my little nod because of Mr. Spielberg and Frank Marshall's genetic tie to all that stuff. It was a little nod to Raiders of the Lost Ark, to be honest. And one of the most surreal experiences out of so many was we opened the set to Gareth and the producers, which means they kind of see it for the first time fully lit and finished. And Frank came on the set and he said, oh, this feels like Indiana Jones could be here. And I was just like, oh my God, that's all I want. I just need that confirmation of like, if it feels like Frank Marshall can buy into something like that and believe it can be in a Raiders of the Lost Ark story.
James, thank you so much for your time. This was really amazing. I'm excited for people to see the film and see all this magnificent work.
Well, I'm excited for people to see it. Thank you, Michael.